Harvey Weinstein walked into the New York City Police Department this morning and turned himself into authorities.
He was charged with first and third degree rape and a first degree criminal sexual act related to two separate cases. Harvey! Sexual misconduct allegations have caught up to disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. He turned himself in to the New York Police Department's first precinct Friday morning and was charged with first and third degree rape and committing a criminal sex act. In a statement, the NYPD said today's charges were for incidents involving two women, and it thanked the brave survivors for their courage to come forward and seek justice. Weinstein later appeared in New York County Supreme Court for a bond hearing where prosecutors alleged
this defendant used his position, money, and power to lure young women into situations where he was able to violate them sexually.
Weinstein's attorney responded, saying that any allegations of non-consensual sex were unequivocally denied.
Mr. Weinstein will enter a plea of not guilty. We intend to move very quickly to dismiss these charges. Mr. Weinstein has always maintained that any sexual activity he engaged in was consensual.
One of the first women to publicly accuse Weinstein of assault, actress Rose McGowan, released a statement on Instagram Thursday, saying in part, "I and so many of Harvey Weinstein's survivors had given up hope that our rapist would be held accountable by law 20 years ago. I swore that I would right this wrong. Today, we are one step closer to justice." Local criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj has been following this controversy.
And he joins us now with more on this case. I'm curious, what makes the New York cases different from the California cases? I know we talked about rape in the story and rape charges and all that, but why New York and why is he not being prosecuted here? What's going on with all that?
Certain jurisdictions have a right to prosecute cases because of the allegations being raised in that jurisdiction. So they have primary jurisdiction. Those local law enforcement officers are the first to respond. They hand a case like this off to local detectives. So the rudimentary answer is it's in New York because that's where the first allegations came about. Okay. Now, there are multi-areas and multi-jurisdictional allegations against Mr. Weinstein, right? We know even in England, there are allegations against him. So in these types of cases, you see a consolidation. There's also a looming federal investigation for stalking a potential witness and one of these ladies that raised an allegation. The beauty of the federal system from a federal prosecutor's point of view is it's a quick way to consolidate multi-jurisdictional complaints. New York also happens to be an area that it's easier to bring a perhaps statute of limitations barred allegation. There is no statute of limitations in a forcible act. We in California, we changed our law in 2016 behind the Bill Cosby charade that happened in that case.
All right, so today he gave $1 million bail,
right,
cash to the court. He has a monitor on his ankle. He's going to fight these charges vigorously, according to his attorney. How difficult is it going to be able to for prosecutors to prove this? I mean, ultimately, it's a he said, she said case, right?
That's exactly right. That's a knee-jerk reaction, and you're 100% correct. However, the law, similar to the law here in California, allows prosecutors to bring uncharged acts into evidence. So the way prosecutors, in my experience, I handle a lot of these cases to trial. The way prosecutors are most persuasive is by not only alleging the victim in the particular case, that is the victim in the count or the counts, but bolstering that by proving a pattern of exercising lewd and lascivious desires. For instance, complaints over the years, perhaps barred by statute of limitations because they don't include, for instance, a force element, or issues in other jurisdictions that may just be misdemeanors. Well, all of this information can come on into evidence if a judge rules it's relevant, which in sex cases, usually it always is.
I read one story today where the alleged attacks were not reported when they happened. At least in most cases. I don't know about all. I didn't go through the whole list of cases. But when you bring that before a jury, how believable is that going to be? I mean, if the attacks happened, then certainly a woman would want to go to the police department and report that attack.
Right.
But if they weren't, and they weren't reported to the police department, and you take it before a jury, and the jury, how will jurors look at that?
Well, it's a great case. I just finished a jury. We were talking about that before we came on board. We had a very favorable verdict just come on in, and that very issue came up. In our case, the victim waited 4 months to report, only 4 months. But that was the issue that the jury really hung their hat on. Now, in this case, you can look forward to the New York State prosecutors and federal prosecutors, if it goes that far, enlisting the advice and retaining an expert witness in sex abuse cases, talking about and explaining why victims of both molestation and sex abuse wait a while to raise the accusations. There's a psychological effect of this pattern of abuse, is what the experts will testify to, which work to suppress the emotions. Now, we have late discovery cases in the civil side of what we do. If we have an individual that's wronged 20, 30 years ago, but doesn't know about it until, for instance, there's an evaluation and someone says, you know what, I always knew something was wrong, and now I can draw that causal connection to what happened to me 20 years ago. This is precisely what the new changes in both California law and nationwide are aiming to suggest.
Do you think this will go to trial? How possible is it for Harvey Weinstein to get an unbiased jury? I mean, his name, he is the poster child for sexual predators in the world right now.
Right. And that's the harm. That's really the harm with, when the media covers these cases, which is an absolute necessity for our community to be fully informed, but exactly that. How do you get a fair jury that doesn't know who Harvey Weinstein is? Well, jury selection, or voir dire, can take months in a case like this. Defense counsel in a case like this is well advised to work with the prosecution and the court to come up with a very exhaustive questionnaire for every potential juror. Because of the publicity, I believe it would be incredibly difficult. And I don't frankly know if Montana is any better for Harvey Weinstein. I think, everywhere is just as good or bad.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. All right. Thanks for coming down.
Yes.
My pleasure, as
Vikas
always.
Bajaj, appreciate your time and
My
your
pleasure.
expertise.